Have you ever felt drained after dealing with someone who always makes everything about themselves? You know the type. The person who demands your attention, undermines your confidence, and somehow twists reality so that you end up questioning your own sanity. Chances are you've encountered a narcissist. Today, I want to share with you why being nice to a narcissist is one of the worst mistakes you can make, and why you need to rethink kindness when facing people who thrive on manipulation, dominance, and control. Most of us are raised to be polite, forgiving, and understanding, and in our everyday relationships, that works. But when it comes to narcissists, that very kindness becomes the weapon they use against you. So let's get deep into the psychology of it. The trap of niceness. Let's start with the core problem. Why does being nice not work with narcissists? When you deal with ordinary people, kindness usually creates trust, safety, and respect. If you listen to someone, validate them, and treat them fairly, they tend to reciprocate. Relationships grow stronger on the basis of that mutual respect. But narcissists are wired differently. To them, kindness isn't a sign of strength. It looks like weakness. When you're too forgiving, too accommodating, or even just too patient, they don't interpret it as a gift. They interpret it as permission. Imagine you lend money to a friend. A normal friend would repay you, or at least appreciate your generosity. A narcissist, on the other hand, takes it as an invitation to ask for more, to push boundaries, and eventually to see how much they can squeeze out of you. Personal comment. I've seen this happen far too often, both in my own life and in the lives of people close to me. We excuse the narcissist because we assume maybe they're just having a bad day, or if I'm patient enough, they'll change. But here's the brutal truth. They rarely do. Instead, they learn that the more patient you are, the easier you are to exploit. Narcissists and power dynamics. Here's something important to understand about narcissistic personalities. They thrive on power and control. They live in a constant state of competition, even when no competition exists. If you're kind to a healthy person, they feel valued. If you're kind to a narcissist, they feel superior. To them, every interaction is a negotiation for status. They don't just seek validation, they demand it. Psychologically, this is tied to their fragile sense of identity. On the surface, narcissists may appear confident, even arrogant, but under that mask lies deep insecurity. They can't stand to feel inferior, so they create elaborate strategies to manipulate and dominate. Your kindness becomes a tool they use in this strategy. They may guilt trip you. After all I've done for you, you can't even do this one thing for me? They may gaslight you. You're too sensitive, I was only joking. They may even use flattery just to reel you in, only to later weaponize your generosity. Everyday example. Let me give you a very simple example you might recognize. Imagine you're part of a work team, and there's that one colleague who constantly takes credit for everyone else's ideas. You stay polite, avoid confrontation, and tell yourself it's not worth making a scene. But what happens? That person keeps stealing ideas, because your silence signals approval. The more nice you are, the more they grow bolder. Over time, it chips away at your confidence, your standing in the team, and even your peace of mind. This is the fundamental reason you should never blindly be nice to narcissists, because it feeds their cycle of exploitation. Analytical comparison. To understand this, let's step back and connect with a bigger idea in psychology. Carl Jung often talked about the shadow, the part of ourselves that we repress and refuse to acknowledge. Narcissists, in many ways, are people consumed by their shadow. They avoid taking responsibility for their faults by projecting them onto others. For example, if a narcissist feels insecure, instead of admitting it, they blame you for being weak. If they're jealous, they accuse you of being jealous. This defense mechanism keeps them from ever confronting their own flaws. And when you meet that projection with kindness, instead of setting a boundary, they double down on the behavior. Now contrast that with healthier individuals, people who are capable of growth. When you call them out, they may feel uncomfortable, but over time they reflect on it and maybe change. A narcissist almost never does. They interpret confrontation as attack and kindness as submission. This means the usual moral rules don't apply in the same way. Treating everyone nicely without discernment only works in a world where everyone has good intentions. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where some people will weaponize virtue itself. Boundaries, your shield against manipulation. Now, let's talk about the concept of boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't about being harsh, rude, or disrespectful. It's simply about taking responsibility for your own well-being and clearly communicating what you will and will not accept from others. With narcissists, boundaries become absolutely critical. They are masters of crossing lines, social, emotional, even professional. If you don't set a firm line, they will push until you're left exhausted, confused, and frustrated. One thing I've come to realize is that many people feel guilty or selfish for rejecting unreasonable demands. We're taught that saying no is rude, that it'll make us unpopular or seem uncaring. But in reality, refusing a narcissist isn't an act of meanness, it's a necessity for your own mental health. Let's break down what strong boundaries look like in everyday life. Example, the overbearing friend. Imagine you have a friend who frequently asks for favors, borrowing money, using your car, expecting you to drop everything for them. The moment you say no, they react with guilt-tripping, anger, or playing the victim. Instead of caving to pressure, a healthy boundary sounds like this: I can't help you with that right now. Or even, that doesn't work for me. I hope you understand. Notice how these statements are clear, direct, but still respectful. The point isn't to attack or belittle the narcissist, it's to protect yourself. What often happens next is pushback. Narcissists may escalate, become manipulative, or try to paint you as selfish. This is where you need to stay committed to your boundaries, repeating yourself if necessary, refusing to argue or justify beyond your initial statement. Boundaries at work. In the workplace, narcissists often seek to gain the upper hand by delegating undesirable tasks, demanding credit, or acting as if their needs should always come first. A strong professional boundary could sound like, I appreciate your input, but I'm responsible for this project and will make the final decisions. Or, I'm not available for extra assignments right now, but I can help later if my schedule allows. Setting boundaries like these serves an important double purpose. It protects your energy, and it signals to the narcissist that you are not an easy target. Over time, most narcissists will move on to easier prey. They tend to focus their efforts where manipulation is effective. Personal commentary. I won't lie, holding firm boundaries with manipulative people is tough. You may feel anxious, guilty, or even scared at first, but every time you refuse to bend on a basic principle, you strengthen your sense of self. Many times, I've personally struggled with saying no. The fear of rejection or confrontation weighed heavy. But I can honestly say, learning to set boundaries was transformative. Suddenly, the constant drama faded away. The narcissists in my life became less interested because they weren't getting the emotional payoff they wanted. You might lose relationships with people who can't respect your limits, but what you gain is peace, self-respect, and healthier connections. Analytical comparison. Boundaries in cultural context. Let's zoom out and look at boundaries from a psychological and cultural perspective. In Western psychology, boundaries are seen as essential for mental health. Experts encourage assertiveness, self-care, and the ability to say no. This is echoed in the work of many thinkers, not just Jordan Peterson, but also Brené Brown and Carl Rogers, who stress the importance of authenticity and respecting your own needs. But in some cultures, particularly those rooted in collectivism, boundaries are often discouraged. The emphasis is on group harmony, sacrifice, and enduring discomfort for the greater good. While these values have their own strengths, they can make it easier for narcissists to operate unchecked because victims are less likely to push back. That's why learning boundary setting is especially important if you come from a background where saying no is frowned upon. It's not about turning your back on your culture, it's about making sure that kindness isn't weaponized against you. Example: boundary-destroying behavior in social media. Take social media, for instance. Narcissism tends to thrive in online spaces, where attention is currency and drama brings followers. Influencers who constantly seek praise, ignore criticism, and bully others for differing opinions often use manipulation tactics at scale. If you're part of a community or following, setting boundaries can look like blocking, unfollowing, or refusing to engage in toxic conversations. You don't owe anyone your attention if they treat you with disrespect. Spotting manipulation, the tactics narcissists use. Let's move on to another crucial lesson: learning to recognize the patterns and tactics of narcissistic manipulation. Many people aren't fully aware they're dealing with a narcissist until they're deeply entangled in emotional games. Awareness is your first step toward freedom. Narcissists often use several predictable strategies. Once you know what to look for, you can respond more effectively and protect yourself. Gaslighting. One of the most insidious tactics is gaslighting. This is when the narcissist tries to convince you that your perception or feelings are wrong. They might say things like, "You're too sensitive," "That never happened," or "You're imagining things." This erodes your confidence and makes you more compliant. Love bombing and devaluation. The cycle frequently begins with love bombing, excessive praise, attention, and promises. This creates a powerful bond. But once you're invested, the narcissist shifts to devaluation, picking at your flaws, ignoring you, or disrespecting boundaries. It can leave you spinning, trying to win back the approval they dangled before you. Triangulation. Triangulation is when the narcissist brings a third party into the dynamic to make you jealous, insecure, or competitive. For example, they might praise another coworker excessively in front of you, or compare you unfavorably to friends. This makes you fight for their recognition and can pull you deeper into their game. The martyr or victim card. Narcissists often play the victim when challenged. Suddenly, you're made to feel guilty for defending yourself or for not meeting their needs. They may exaggerate their struggles or focus on their suffering to manipulate sympathy and push you into submission. Personal commentary. My experience with manipulation. I remember a time when I was constantly second-guessing my actions around someone who used several of these tactics. Whenever I tried to assert my needs, the conversation would flip. I'd suddenly feel unreasonable, selfish, or even cruel for wanting basic respect. Looking back, I see that my kindness and openness became vulnerabilities that this person exploited. The moment I stopped feeling responsible for their emotions and started questioning their narratives, things changed. I regained clarity, and slowly I began to break free. It's not easy, especially when the narcissist is a close friend, relative, or boss. But recognizing manipulation for what it is gives you the power to choose your response. How to respond assertively without losing compassion. Now let's talk about assertive responses. Assertiveness is different from aggression. It's a way of standing up for yourself while still respecting the other person. This is especially important when dealing with manipulative personalities. Here are some practical steps. Use I statements. For example, I feel uncomfortable when my ideas are dismissed. I need to be respected in this discussion. Avoid apologizing for setting boundaries. Instead of saying, "Sorry, but I can't," try, "I won't be able to do that." Don't engage in endless debates. State your boundary once and refuse to justify it repeatedly. If manipulation persists, distance yourself, emotionally and physically. Limiting contact, especially when manipulation intensifies, is an act of self-care. Assertiveness is about protecting your dignity. Remember, your feelings and needs matter just as much as anyone else's. Analytical comparison: genuine kindness versus toxic niceness. Let's analyze the difference between true kindness and toxic niceness. Genuine kindness includes compassion for yourself. It's wise, measured, and based on mutual respect. Toxic niceness, on the other hand, is the compulsion to appease, to avoid conflict at all costs, and to abandon your own needs for someone else's approval. Some thinkers, like Carl Rogers, emphasize unconditional positive regard, but also note that it only works within a healthy relational context. In contrast, narcissists exploit unconditional kindness by pushing every boundary. True kindness means speaking your truth even if it's uncomfortable, calling out unhealthy behavior, and refusing to participate in cycles of manipulation and abuse. It's about courage, not just comfort. Everyday example: breaking the cycle. Picture yourself in a family setting. You've always been the peacemaker, setting aside your needs for harmony. One family member constantly demands attention, disrupts gatherings, and refuses to acknowledge anyone's feelings but their own. Breaking the cycle might mean calmly but firmly stating, "I'm happy to listen, but I won't allow personal attacks or disrespect. If that continues, I'll leave the conversation." It may shock people at first, but eventually you'll model something healthier for everyone involved. Long-term transformation: what happens when you refuse to be nice to narcissists? When you decide to stop catering to narcissists, when you trade toxic niceness for healthy boundaries, you open the door to real, lasting transformation in your life. Not instantly and not always easily, but the changes are profound. Reclaiming peace and self-respect. The first, most noticeable change is an incredible sense of peace. When you stop feeling responsible for someone else's moods, reactions, or happiness, you relieve yourself of a burden you were never meant to carry. Your self-respect grows each time you honor your boundaries. Instead of tiptoeing or apologizing for your existence, you begin to stand tall. The emotional drama loses its grip and your mental clarity returns. It's amazing how much energy and confidence you get back when you refuse to participate in manipulative games. Healthier relationships and environments. By refusing to enable narcissists, you send a clear signal to everyone around you about what you expect and deserve in a relationship. Other people begin to treat you with more respect and honesty. You'll notice this at work, among friends, and within your family. Healthy connections thrive on openness, support, and mutual care. Toxic relationships may fade away. It can be painful to let go of certain people or roles, but every time you do, you make space for something better. Personal commentary: my journey toward growth. Speaking personally, learning to say no to narcissists and yes to myself was one of the hardest lessons. It forced me to examine patterns I'd accepted for years, step back from toxic cycles, and prioritize inner peace. There were difficult moments and uncomfortable transitions, but the freedom and growth that followed were worth every struggle. Today, I'm far less interested in pleasing everyone and much more focused on building authentic, healthy relationships. That shift has changed my life, and I believe it can change yours too. Analytical wrap-up: what other thinkers say about narcissism and assertiveness. Many great minds in psychology agree, kindness, when indiscriminate, can be dangerous. It needs boundaries, wisdom, and the courage to say no when necessary. Psychologists like Albert Ellis and Viktor Frankl discuss the importance of living authentically, guided not just by what others want, but by deeper personal values and meaning. True compassion includes self-compassion. It's not just about sacrificing for others. If you want genuine kindness in the world, start by showing it to yourself. Then extend it to those who value and respect it in return. Conclusion: challenge and call to action. Let's wrap this up. If anything in today's video has resonated with you, perhaps you see a pattern from your own life, or maybe you've identified someone who fits the narcissistic mold, I challenge you to reflect on your boundaries. Ask yourself, where have I been nice out of fear, not choice? Where do I need more self-respect, even at the risk of conflict? How could setting healthy boundaries transform your world? Share your story in the comments below. Let's support each other and spread awareness, because breaking the cycle starts with honesty and courage. If this video has helped you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's build a community of strength and kindness, where compassion does not come at the price of dignity. Thanks for watching, and remember, you deserve peace, authenticity, and healthy connections. See you in the next video.